You see, their numbers didn't go up when the news broke about AAPI hate. Their numbers didn't go up when the news broke about what's happening south of the border. Their numbers and offerings go up anytime there is news, trauma, drama, and violence surrounding Black Americans. That is the only time their numbers go up. You don't get to say, oh, we're not a reparations organization for the descendants of American slavery, yet you continue to benefit on their history of trauma, past and present. First, I want to make sure to give credit where it's due, and that's by thanking my writer, Ryan Glenn, who writes for my news website, tdnewsnetwork.com, because it's actually through this article that he wrote that I was informed on what's going on with the men and women of the dominant society slowly taking over the reparations conversation. Now let's get into this article a little bit, and it's titled, White Organized Reparations Groups Are Diluting the Grassroots National Call for Reparations. There is a phenomenon currently sweeping the country that is garnering national attention. Grassroots, mostly white, organizers are crowdsourcing what some have deemed as reparations. Groups such as Reparations Roundtable, Tuscan Reparations, Coalition for Black Trans Economic Liberation, and many others have come together in places such as Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Austin for small-scale reparation efforts. For groups such as Reparations Roundtable, all-white staff, their form of aid vary, but typically revolve around paying rent, groceries, eviction prevention, and bail, just to name a few. These reparations payments have typically gone to those facing hardships like single mothers and LGBTQIA members. While admirable, there are many misconceptions associated with the perception surrounding these types of groups. For starters, they are not giving reparations, nor are they reparationist. Now here's the important part. These are charitable donations that are prioritizing selective subcategories of preferred Black people to assuage individual guilt. Now, I want to take a moment to highlight why I state that the dominant society is slowly taking over the reparations conversation. And I want to do that by highlighting this organization here called Reparations Roundtable that is in this article. Now, Reparations Roundtable is a white-ran reparations organization. There's no way around that. Here is Rosie Green, co-founder of Reparations Roundtable, and here is the second co-founder, Chanel Helm, who is the core lead organizer of Black Lives Matter Louisville and co-founder of Reparations Roundtable. And according to this NBC News article, Reparations Roundtable, which Helm co-founded in 2017, has a staff of 7 volunteers, all of whom are white. Okay, so I think we can all agree that Reparations Roundtable is a white reparations organization. Now, here's one of the main issues that I have on top of many. When I say that the dominant society is taking over the reparations conversation, I say that because it wasn't that long ago, just prior to the election, that mainstream media made it a point to demonize reparation organizations that were actually founded, ran, and operated by actual descendants of American slavery. The mainstream media went out of its way prior to the election to demonize the ADOS movement, which stands for American Descendants of Slavery, as well as those who fall under the banner of FBA, which stands for Foundational Black Americans. And this demonization continued even after the election until the present day. Meanwhile, as mainstream media demonizes authentic reparations advocacy groups and organizations, they are simultaneously lifting up white-ran reparations organization for the purposes of making sure that the dominant society controls the narrative surrounding the reparations conversation. All throughout this article by NBC News, titled Crowdfunding Campaigns Start Their Own Form of Reparations in Lieu of a Federal Push, they make it a point to uplift, highlight, and promote any and every reparations organization that is either majority controlled by the dominant society, if not people of color, and or those who identify with their sexual preference over being Black, or to be more specific, a descendant of American slavery. Now, this is extremely problematic because what you have here in this particular case with Reparations Roundtable, which is an all-white reparations organization, is an issue in which the members of the dominant society that control this organization are now defining what reparations is and how it should be distributed and who it should be distributed to. Now let's head on over to Reparations Roundtable's Patreon page. Now, as you can see, when you first get here, you have the black woman up front, another black individual in the back, and what appears to be multiple black people in the background. And as you scroll down the page, you get here to the About portion of Reparations Roundtable, and it reads as such. Reparations Roundtable started as a discussion with my closest friends in my living room just last year. It has grown into a Facebook group filled with folks from all over the country as well as Australia and Japan. We work in conjunction with black organizations who call themselves the Gumball Machine. I'm not really sure what that means, but let's carry on. Together, we make sure that direct giving as reparations are directly sent to BIPOC mamas, femis, trans, and GNC Maggies in crisis. Can somebody please explain to me what are GNC Maggies and what are femis? And what are you talking about when you're saying BIPOC mamas? So we're talking about black, indigenous, people of color, single mothers? You see, this is either about reparations for the descendants of American slavery or it's not. And clearly, this Reparations Roundtable, which is an all-white organization, is not focused on acquiring reparations for the descendants of American slavery. What they're doing here is exactly what Ryan Glenn discussed in his article when he stated that these are charitable donations that are prioritizing selective subcategories of preferred black people to assuage individual guilt. And clearly, as you can see via their Patreon page, the selective subcategories of preferred black people for Reparations Roundtable are women and the LGBTQ community. Now, as I stated earlier, all throughout this NBC News article, they make it a point to prop up, elevate, and give shine to reparations organizations that are either majority white ran or ran by those who appear to be black on the surface, but who identify with any and everything other than being an actual descendant of American slavery. And with that comes the bastardization of the definition of reparations, what it is, and how it should be distributed concerning the descendants of American slavery. One of the other organizations that are highlighted in this NBC News article is an organization called Reparations, Requests, and Offerings. And in this article, it reads as such. Reparations organizers saw how direct giving online ebbed and flowed with the news cycle. Now, who's in control of reparations, requests, and offerings? Well, when you come to their Facebook group page, which is private, you see here at the bottom left corner of the logo, it states Group by Non-White Works. And when you dig a little deeper into who is Non-White Works and you go to their website, you'll see that the core facilitators of Non-White Works is number one, Natasha Marion. Natasha Marion is the actual founder of Reparations, Requests, and Offerings. And when you come to her Wikipedia page, her background reads as this. Natasha Marion is a Seattle-based conceptual artist, published poet, and activist with roots in Trinidad and Canada, whose work focuses on people, community, and healing. So she's either an immigrant to the United States of America, or she's either possibly a first or second gen immigrant born in the United States. So off top, the founder of this reparations organization is not a descendant of American slavery. And as we go down the list of the rest of those who are core facilitators of Non-White Works, you will see that next in line is Jordan Green, who per his bio identifies with his sexuality versus being black and or a descendant of American slavery, if he is a descendant of American slavery. And he is followed up by a woman and man of the dominant society. So this is the foundation of reparations, requests, and offerings. Now let's get into their About page. And I want to come to the bottom portion of the About page, which reads as such. Although this has been widely publicized, some folks are still confused about the fact that this group is focused on bringing about healing and connection in the present tense. Reparations, Requests, and Offerings is not about reparations for American slavery, although this is a very valid pursuit. It's actually about addressing present-day income inequality, community building, community care, and about bringing about much-needed healing and repair for today, last week, and tomorrow. Now, some of you might be saying, well, what's the problem? If they're telling you up front that this isn't about reparation for the descendants of American slavery, then no harm, no foul. But here's the issue. This organization is gaining a massive following and is making thousands of dollars off of the present day situation surrounding police brutality, particularly as it pertains to how it's affecting Black Americans via George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so on. As you can see here in this NBC News article, it states this: reparations organizations saw how direct giving online ebbed and flowed with the news cycle. After Floyd's murder, the Facebook group Reparations Requests and Offerings grew from 15,000 members to 21,000 members in just a few weeks. You see, their numbers didn't go up when the news broke about AAPI hate. Their numbers didn't go up when the news broke about what's happening south of the border. Their numbers and offerings go up anytime there is news, trauma, drama, and violence surrounding Black Americans. That is the only time their numbers go up. You don't get to say, oh, we're not a reparations organization for the descendants of American slavery, yet you continue to benefit on their history of trauma, past and present. And this is what we have going on here with this organization, Reparations Requests and Offerings. Now let's see how the majority white organization Reparations Roundtable fared during this time period when Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery were unfortunately taken from us. Reparations Roundtable in Louisville raised over $50,000 in 2 days following the announcement that the police officers involved in the home raid in which Breonna Taylor was killed would not be charged. They raised $50,000 in 2 days off of the back of Breonna Taylor. And where is that so-called reparations money going? It's going to BIPOC mamas, femis, trans, and GNC Maggies. Now let's keep reading. Those type of surges happen when something terrible happens. Dee Williams, the Reparations Request and Offerings Administrator, said, it's like an outpouring of guilt. So Dee's just giving it up. She's saying anytime something terrible happens to Black Americans, we gain thousands of members as well as thousands of dollars. Let's carry on. Organizers in Cleveland redistributed over $40,000 in cash and another $40,000 in donated goods and services. The response was astronomical. Organizer Aaron McCradle said that by September, the group freezed its own accounts to properly process the funds. These surges of donations are double-edged swords, said McCradle, who is white. We're still going to make sure money gets redirected, but ultimately, this is a problem. It's not a long-term engagement. Since closing down and doing a deep analysis, Reparations Now has trained 40 more volunteers and shifted the leadership structure to ensure that decisions about distribution of money are made by local Black and Indigenous leaders. And this organization is called Reparations Now. You see what I'm talking about here? Why aren't they seeing a surge of money and membership coming whenever some form of injustice and tragedy happens to Indigenous people? These organizations only make money and receive a substantial bump in their memberships when something tragic happens to Black Americans. Yet, as you can see here with this organization, Reparations Now, those making the decisions about how to distribute the money is being made by local Black and Indigenous leaders. Now, after the restructuring of Reparations Now, who are the decision makers? Well, I'll make this quick. This brother right here, William Bachwe, is Ghanaian. Miss Gates, though in her bio doesn't give specifics, she's possibly a descendant of American slavery. Kyle Kidd, an individual who goes by all pronouns, so we already know what that means. Marlene Morris, who also doesn't give specifics concerning her lineage and background, but we can assume by her last name that she's most likely possibly a descendant of American slavery. Jessica Vallejo, who is a Hispanic woman that identifies with her Native American roots. And Robert Rice, who appears to be confused. The brother is New African, Saponi, Catawba, Tuscarawa Bear Clan. So he's some sort of New African, Native American, I guess. And these are the decision makers of these tens of thousands of dollars in so-called reparations that are going to go to God knows where at this point. You see, all of this by NBC News and mainstream media overall is done deliberately to create nothing but confusion in the reparations conversation. and to take it from being about the descendants of American slavery to being about all, quote, oppressed people. They even go on to highlight an organization called Coalition for Black Trans Economic Liberation. And when you come to their Facebook page and make it a point to scroll down a little bit, well, they're about collecting reparations as well. As a matter of fact, send your reparations today to their Cash App, their Venmo, and their PayPal account. Yes, the Coalition for Black Trans Economic Liberation is accepting reparations today. Now, is there anything wrong with an organization that is specifically focused around economic liberation for Black trans? Absolutely not. But when you're making it a point to tie it around reparations, you are being wildly disingenuous because you know what you're doing. Just like any and every other organization, they do this deliberately with the understanding that with every little bit and piece of news that comes out surrounding Black Americans, their numbers concerning memberships and dollars will skyrocket. Meanwhile, none of this money in any way, real shape, form, or fashion is going to the benefit of the descendants of American slavery. Because as Ryan Glenn stated in the initial article that we were reading from tdnewsnetwork.com, these are donations that are prioritizing selective subcategories of preferred Black people. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll receive a direct text message whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself. So in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support to me is through Patreon for only $3 a month. That helps put me in position to be able to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And if you haven't already, please make sure you join the emailing list, which is also pinned in the comment section. There is no way that I can become independent of YouTube if I'm not able to take the audience with me. So if you haven't done so already, please do. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.